Hello guys, welcome to Physics Grad. This is the third part on Maupertuis principle, and in this video we are going to formulate it mathematically and see what is its structure. So far we have seen that Maupertuis principle is used when we know the endpoint coordinates. So when we know the endpoint coordinates but not time, plus we know what is the total energy of the system and that the energy must be constant, which means this is a constant. Okay, and we already seen in the previous two parts that we can, with this information, we cannot use the Hamilton's principle, but rather we can formulate a different variational principle where we can represent a path using a number that is proportional to the area under the Vx curve. So that number, I am going to represent it as S0, okay, and this must be proportional to the area under V dx curve if we consider one-dimensional case and using Cartesian coordinates. Okay, now to this S0 that we call, okay, is actually in literature called as the abbreviated action. Abbreviated action, just like how we called action as integral of Lagrangian with respect to time. Similarly, this quantity which is proportional to the area under VDX curve, we are going to call it as the abbreviated action, and this is going to represent the different paths taken in such a way that the energy is conserved and it starts from a particular set of coordinates and ends at a particular set of coordinates without any information about how much time it takes for the system to traverse this path. Alright, so remember I have just told that it is proportional to the velocity. So we need to get rid of this proportional sign, and we do this by defining our S0 in the following manner. So we define S0 as equal to integral mv dx, which becomes integral p dx, where p is the momentum of the system. Now it is true that with just this information it is still going to give us the correct path, but then you might ask, why do we need to write it in this form? So the reason for this is that if we write it in this form, we can directly relate this abbreviated action to the action which we saw in our Hamilton's principle in the form of a Legendre transformation. Okay, so how is this done? Let us see that. So we use P instead of V. So instead of defining S0 as just this quantity, we define it as this quantity, because this gives a relation between S0 and S. Okay, so here S is what we have already seen, integral T1 to T2. So here this will be going from x1 to x2. So here also it will go from x1 to x2. So this is T1 to T2 L dt. Okay, and here we are defining our S0 in this manner in terms of the momentum, because in this form allows us to give a relationship between S0 and S. Okay, so how do we formulate this relationship? So for this, let us consider, okay, so to see this, consider S is equal to integral L dt, right? Now this can be written as pq dot minus h dt. This is saying the fact that L and H are Legendre transforms of each other. If you do not know what a Legendre transformation is, I recommend you to watch the series on the math playlist on the Legendre transform. You will find it in the maths playlist. Okay, so if you already know, you don't have to worry, we can just move forward. So our Lagrangian is related to the Hamiltonian using this relation. So I am simply replacing the Lagrangian using this particular value. Now this is the case when we have only 1 degree of freedom, and here our q is equal to x. Alright. So this is nothing but integral p dx by dt minus h dt over time, integrating over time. Now this becomes equal to integral p dx minus integral h dt. But now this is nothing but what we defined as our abbreviated action, which means our Hamiltonian action is going to become S equal to S naught minus, since our total energy is fixed, the Hamiltonian is going to be a constant because of the conservation of energy. Therefore, I am going to call this as our energy value E. So when we integrate this, we will get E times capital T, where capital T is equal to the time taken to go from the coordinates, the set of coordinates, initial coordinates, to the final coordinates, which I represented using the numbers 1 and 2. Okay, but remember, we do not know what is the value of this. We are just saying that t is the time taken to go from 1 to 2. What is the value of this t for the correct path? We do not know. Okay. So this is the relationship between the action which we defined in our Hamiltonian variational principle or Hamilton's principle and the abbreviated action. Okay. So moving further, we see that our abbreviated action can be written as S plus E times T. Correct? Now, in our previous video on action as a function of endpoint coordinates and time, we have seen the following. Okay, so previously we have seen the relations which says dou s by dou q equal to p and dou s by dou t equal to minus h. Okay, now these relations are valid. Okay, so these represent how the action corresponding to the true path, okay, this is important, corresponding to the true path is dependent on endpoint coordinates and time, is dependent on endpoint coordinates and time. Okay, so remember these relations are valid only when we take this derivative about s corresponding to the correct path. Okay, so what this means is the following. If you have, for example, in one dimension x versus t graph, this is t1, this is t2. Now I am talking about this relation is valid for our Hamilton's principle. So there we know the value of t1 and t2, and this is the point 1, this is the point 2. Let us say that this is the true path. Okay, true path, and let us consider another virtual path. Now we can represent each of these paths using our action. So I'm going to call this as S1 and I'm going to call this as S2. Okay, so this is the true path and this is the virtual path. Now what I mean by this statement is that dou S2 by dou Q is equal to P and dou S2 by dou T is equal to minus H. This is correct. This is correct. Whereas dou S1 by dou Q is equal to P and dou S1 by dou T is equal to minus H. These relations will not hold. So this is wrong. Okay, so this is correct. This is wrong. Why? Because when we derived these equations, we derived it by varying S about the true path, not any random path. So this relation is valid only when you consider S corresponding to the true path, not when you vary S so this relation tells you how the value of S2 is going to change, or how the value of action representing the true path is going to change when you change the endpoint coordinates or when you change the endpoint time. Okay, that is what this relation tells. Therefore, this relation does not make any sense. Okay, so when we say that this relation holds, we are saying it with respect to S, which corresponds to the true path. This is a very important thing to remember, otherwise it might be confusing. Okay, so this implies we can write dou S by dou T, where T, if you consider T1 to be 0, which is usually the case, then this particular guy can be written in this form, where we have already defined this capital T as the time taken. So this can be written as equal to minus E. Okay, but this is true only for S corresponding to the true path. Now we do not know what the value of T is, but assuming that this there is a particular T where the true path is given using the Maupertuis principle, then the action corresponding to that true path is going to depend on the time taken by this relation. Okay, so if we use that relation in this simply becomes S naught equal to S times minus dou S by dou T times T. Okay, now we already know that our Hamilton's action depends on the coordinates and the time taken to traverse the path. Okay, this we have already seen. So therefore, if you notice this is actually S naught equal to minus of dou S by dou T times T minus S. So if you know Legendre transformation, there are two different conventions followed, and the way we approached Legendre transformation in our maths playlist, we defined our Legendre transformation as, so let us just remember this equation. Let me write it down again over here. So we have our relation that S naught equal to S minus dou S by dou T times T, correct? So this is equal to minus of dou S by dou T times T minus S. So this, if you compare with our equation for Legendre transform, for example, if we have a function which depends on x and y, and I take the Legendre transform with respect to x, then our Legendre transform f star of py is given by maximizing over x the function px minus f. Okay, and this is equal to dou f by dou x times x minus f. Okay, so to avoid confusion, we'll use x dash here, and here this x corresponds to the value of x dash for which this takes the maximum value. This is how we define the Legendre transform. If you see the form of this equation, if you see this equation and this equation, except for this negative sign, we see that they look the same. Okay, so what this negative sign does is simply it will change one of the properties of the Legendre transform, which says that if f is convex, then f star is also convex, whereas here, because of the negative sign, if our s is convex, our s naught is going to be concave. Okay, but other than that, this gives the same information as s, and therefore these are two different perspectives of viewing the same thing, and therefore this is also a Legendre transformation. Okay, with the only difference of a negative sign, and sometimes this negative sign is taken as a convention in some places. So we can define our Legendre transform both ways, either like this or with the negative sign, depending on what convention you use. The only thing that will change is the fact is whether the transformed function is going to be concave or convex as compared to the initial starting function. If we do not have the negative sign, the two functions will have the same nature, that is either both will be convex or both will be concave. If we have a negative sign, the convex and concave, the two functions will be opposite, that is if one is convex, the other one becomes concave. So therefore our actions, the two actions which we use in Maupertuis principle and Hamilton's principle, are related using a Legendre transform of this kind, but what we have to keep in mind is that this relation is true only for s and s naught corresponding to the true paths. Okay, so this relation is true or valid only for s naught and s corresponding to the true paths. Okay, now can we somehow be able to derive this Maupertuis principle, provided we know the Hamilton's principle? Okay, so the question now is, since they are related by a Legendre transform, it means that both principles in some way must be equivalent. In what I mean by that is that both should be able to give the true path. Okay, so can we derive this Maupertuis principle from the Hamilton's principle? So the question is, can we derive or get Maupertuis principle from Hamilton's principle? And the answer is yes. So answer is yes. And to do this, we have to look at the following. Okay, so we know that for s corresponding to the true path, now we have a true path, and we know that it is represented by s. Okay, we have the following relation, that if we do not know the endpoint times, then the variation of s is related in this manner, minus integral of h dt. So this is from our earlier relation, which says the following. So yeah, so combining these two relations, we can write our ds as equal to P dq minus H dt, and integrating both sides we get that this is equal to integral P dq minus integral H dt. So variation of S will be equal to variation of P dq minus variation of H dt. Okay, and that is what I am writing here. And remember, this relation is true. So variation of H dt, this relation is true only when we consider S corresponding to the true path. Okay, so this becomes del S equal to, this is nothing but variation in our abbreviated action, minus, since H is constant, this is going to be E times del of, if we go from T naught to some T dash, this will be del of T dash minus T naught. Okay, after integration. But we know that, so for true path, the and fixed endpoint coordinates, if we vary the end point time, then our variation in S corresponding to the true path is related to the variation in the endpoint time by the relation given by this. This we have already seen in the video on relation of how S is related to the coordinates and time. So here we know that the endpoint coordinates are fixed, but our time is not fixed, and therefore if our time was also known, it will imply that this del of t is going to be 0, and in our case the final time is represented by t dash, so I should write del of t dash here. So if we had known what t dash is precisely, then this variation would be 0, and therefore our variation in the action would be 0, and therefore it represents the correct path. But since we do not know what t dash is, we are free to vary it, and if we vary it, then the variation in S is going to depend in this manner. Okay, so this will be equal to, in our case, since energy is conserved, E times del t dash, and this term is going to be, since t dash is taken to be a constant, is going to be minus E del t dash. So this means that del S equal to del S naught minus E del t dash, but then del S is equal to minus E del t dash for the true path, for S corresponding to true path, but not knowing the endpoint time. This implies del S minus E del t dash equal to del S naught equal to 0, which says that for our condition where our endpoint times are not known but the energy is conserved and constant, the true path abbreviated action corresponds to the one where the variation in the abbreviated action equal to 0. Okay, so therefore we have derived our Maupertuis principle from the Hamilton's principle. Okay, so therefore the two action principles are equivalent for systems with conserved energy and are related by a Legendre transform. Okay, so this is what we have seen in this video. So to summarize, we formulate our Maupertuis principle in this manner, which says that the correct path corresponds to the one where a quantity defined in this manner gets minimized, and we call that quantity as the abbreviated action. Okay, and then we saw how this is related to the Hamilton's action, and how we can derive the Maupertuis principle using the Hamilton's principle. Okay. Now, before we end, let us just see how the Maupertuis principle looks for cases with more than 1 degrees of freedom. So, for more than 1 degrees of freedom, if we use our generalized coordinates, S0 is defined as integral over summation over I pi dqi. Okay, which implies this represents area under individual qi dot qi curve. Okay, must be minimized to get the correct path. This is what this the Maupertuis principle for higher degrees of freedom is going to say. Correct path. Okay, so it is just a direct extension of the one-dimensional case where the degree of freedom was 1, and now we are saying all the QIs are independent, and therefore to minimize S0 we need to minimize all of these independent curves. Okay, only then the total S0 will be minimized, and therefore we'll get the correct path. Alright, so that's it for this video. See you next time.